Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collective podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hello, welcome to TFYLP. We are live on Monday night, December 14th. This is TFYLP episode 410. I'm here tonight with Nick.
Hello.
Robert.
Hi.
Paul.
You're muted.
Can't hear you.
No, I'm not.
There you go.
And Christian.
What up?
And I'm Lucas.
And before we get started tonight, I'm coming in hot because they have kept me off this show for the past month, trying to keep me silent. And I'm ripping the door off. I've been sitting by while y'all have shat on Masterpiece for the past month. Every goddamn show, just dropping loads on it. And I'm going to set a few things straight. So I'm going to rant for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to let Christian have his show. But this is happening first.
Are you Kanyeing me right now? Am I Taylor Swift?
Listen. I'm going to let you finish. Actually, I'm going to let you get started after I finish. Same thing as I tell my wife. So this last week or the other week, both Christian and Lucas said this, and I've heard you say this before, and fucking pisses me off. You say, well, I see Masterpiece collections, and I'm like, everybody's got that picture of Masterpiece, and I'm going to collect Chug instead. You don't think like 18 times more people have a collection of shelves with Chug figures piled up in a big mass, like some funeral ready to go to set it on fire, to wish it away? I guarantee you they do way more have it. If the reason you're collecting something is to be unique and special, Transformers ain't it. At least not whatever's mainline buying it up, or even Masterpiece. Anything mass produced and putting it on a shelf, that ain't it. So that's crap. Second, people complain about the cost. Per figure, they're absolutely more expensive. But if you collect only Masterpiece and some third party, I bet your budget isn't much different from somebody that's buying all the Hasbro crap.
We're gonna talk about that.
Yeah. So just saying, budget is perspective. If you should have a budget. You should have a budget and buy what fits in your budget. We're going to get there.
That too. But
I'm just iterating on the Masterpiece shitting. All right. And I don't know when every collector, like the Masterpiece Mafia, hurt you, but came to you in the night and put a gun to your head and said, you have to like this line. You have to love this line and worship this line. Because it's not true. It's okay to not like Masterpiece. That's fine. It's okay to like simpler toys and that are a little more, you can be rougher with them. That's fine. It's okay to not like Masterpiece. So stop comparing everything to Masterpiece. We don't compare everything to Cyberverse. Not everybody likes Cyberverse. And lastly, if you're shitting on Masterpiece, I hope you know that's like where all the good engineering happens. And it trickles down to the main line. Like 90% of it.
Bullshit.
No, it is not. Because everybody that talks about, look how great this new Chug figure is. This transformation is so evocative of the Masterpiece. And they're right. Because that's where so much of the good design happens. And it trickles down to the little lines. And then everybody gets to enjoy it, in a simpler fashion. So if Masterpiece died, we would have nothing but Combiner Wars legs for the next 30 years. That's everything would be that, or it'd be Cyberverse. So, there. My rant's done. I hate you all, and that's why they don't.
Technically, a lot of third party started using the Combiner Wars for their legs in their transformations. So it goes both ways.
Who?
The Combiner Wars
Combiner
legs
Wars,
or
like,
whatever.
the leg
Those
comes out of the shell.
those legs they put panels over it, of course, like they make it more intricate, but it's a similar thing that like came out after Combiner Wars. Like Masterpiece is the standard, like that's the standard for Transformers and all that type of thing. I'm not going to take that away or whatever, but it's okay if you're not into Masterpiece. I think that there's a lot of that, like whenever we're kind of saying those things, it's almost like to ourselves, to where so much of our community of collectors and whatnot, like they're like, oh, if you don't collect Masterpiece, like you're not the cool kid or whatever. And so that's what I'm saying. It's okay.
None of us are cool kids. Those people, except for Nick.
Okay, I'll agree with that or whatever.
All right. So that's been piling up for a month. I'm good now.
Wow.
I'm gonna go take a smoke and go to sleep.
That's secretly why you're here the whole time.
Wow. I could just imagine you, like, downloading the podcast, listening to it in your car, and just yelling at us or something like that. Like, no, what are you talking about? I can't wait until I'm finally back on.
I'm watching the YouTube videos while I work, getting even madder than I normally am at work. Taking mental notes. To pre-talk, Christian, I almost took notes for my rant because I've been so mad.
So honestly, I mean, Chug is not, well, you know, whatever. Mainline is not unique or anything like that too. But I always feel bad, like whenever we're on like Ouch My Wallet or Oof My Wallet, that you know, Paul or whoever, maybe Rick or Peter or whatever, pulls out some like crazy weird stuff. Like, that's where I think is really neat, is some of the oddball things that you can pick up at conventions or whatever, to where it is unique and it's something that's, like, completely different. So, there you go. I don't even know what Paul's showing off, but whatever it is, it's different.
Unique stuff is more fun. Like, that was a lot of fun, like, when I was doing Ouch and bringing on Rock Lords and the Elite Action Masters, because who the hell's going to bring that stuff on? Nobody. Right. For good reason. Well, you never did, Christian.
You're right.
Yeah. All right. So, there. Caught up on the past month of my feedback.
That was a lot of feedback. That was a lot of feedback very furiously all at once.
Yeah.
Cool.
I want to say I kind of tried to toe that line with these jokers.
Yeah.
But I didn't do it quite as forcefully as you.
If I had been there at the time, I would have had your more measured approach. The time had passed for that.
But you weren't.
I wasn't.
Well, these guys are like, well, if you collect the line, you got to get it all. That's what that means, man. That's how you collect.
That's
what it means.
That too.
Also not true.
You're previewing
I
all
think
my topics for tonight.
I think the thing about like Masterpiece and whatnot, some of that is I don't like the direction of the line and the way the figures look now, especially some of the ones like Bumblebee or whatnot that just have like a disaster behind his back or whatnot, and so like that's the thing. It just makes me angry that like I love the older Masterpiece line. I don't, and that's why I talk about it on the show about how I don't collect it.
No, but
and then
you
Rob
act like
gets all
Bumblebee's
mad.
back made you get rid of all that stuff. Get out of here! You just don't get Bumblebee.
Charger made me get rid of all the stuff.
But I have to have a Bumblebee, and so like if I have a Bumblebee, it makes me mad that it does that. Or the Hound, the fact that he disintegrates. Exactly. I'm waiting for. Hopefully, I get a Bumblebee next week.
And that's basically MP21.
It is, and that's why I'm excited about it. Anyway, okay. So, is there anything else we want to discuss on this before we start on the regular topic?
I don't know. This sounds like the airing of grievance.
Like next week,
Festivus for the rest
Yeah,
of
when's Festivus? Isn't that coming up? Isn't that next week?
That's what we should do for a topic. We should have a Festivus night.
I just blew my wad. I'm done.
Well, the rest
Gotta
of
find
us
some more grievances,
have a
Rob.
turn.
That's a good point. Can do. Let me browse Facebook for 3 minutes. I'll have material for an hour.
Oh, man.
Let's talk about X-Trans bots. Not actually, but
All I can say about X-Trans bots is thank God I dodged that bullet.
I jumped in front of it.
I got out on that Minosaur set and sold it way before. I mean, this was a long time ago, and it's. But oh man, I would have been so upset. It's just. Not the cost of it overall, because I don't think that the overall cost is that bad compared to some of the other ones. It's just the way they're doing it's just annoying.
Yeah, there was a dick move in there, but I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about Christian's thing now.
Yeah, so the whole thing about this topic this was I don't know, it's been a few weeks now, a month, something like that. I mean, we always talk about, how much is enough and the directions of our collection and all that type of thing, and have these, crises about, how many Transformers we have and whatnot. And so, I was like, man, we really should have a show about this. We talk about this all the time. Why don't we talk about it, live and whatnot too? So I think it's something that hits home for a fair amount of us. So it kind of started with Christian, but I think it kind of covers everybody. And something that Rob, I think you've managed to kind of get past that a little bit. It sounds like that you kind of had this a couple of years ago, and you've actually stuck to your guns. Whereas someone like me, where I keep, I scale back and keep, get more and scale back and whatever.
The main thing to keep throughout all of this is that you should be enjoying your hobby. And if you're not enjoying your hobby, something's wrong. And someone coined this term. I feel like it was Paul. Maybe it wasn't. That could be a completely bad memory, but the late stage transformerism. Okay, Paul's taking
yeah. I am the author of such a term.
Yeah. I'm one of the younger collectors, I feel like sometimes, where I've only been in it for 15 years. That's when I came back into it. But I know there's other people have only been in it for 5 or 2 or whatever. But I know there's also guys like Nick and Peter who've been since I was a kid, I never stopped, But there's definitely could be phases and arcs for some of us as our hobby goes. And I think it's all of us just at some point, the stress of that much stuff can weigh you down. And at some point that stress overcomes the fun of the hobby. Or, fighting pre-orders overcomes the fun of the hobby. Scalpers overcome the fun of the hobby. All those things add stress to what's supposed to be a hobby for fun. And, some of that's okay. It's a little bit here and there. It happens. It can make stuff exciting ultimately. And, you can tell a story or whatever. How many of us have those stories about rushing to find a fax machine to get our BotCon registration in? Or what online fax system isn't crashing, that we can use, that type of stuff. But sometimes it overtakes, and it's well, how do we get back to enjoying our hobby to where, we own the collection instead of it owning us?
Rob, you're so insightful.
I'm an old bitter man. Did you not hear my rant?
I did. But what's interesting is that I've also been collecting for 15 years. I'm just also much younger than you are.
Yeah.
Not much. Enough. But yeah, Rob and I have talked about this before. I talk to Lucas and Anna about it pretty much every day. I've talked to Nick about it several times in the years we've known each other. And
we don't talk about it.
Yeah, I've never talked to Paul about it, so this is the first time. That's okay. We're friends anyway. It's just, I feel like I'm having my turning 30 crisis, even though I'm turning 30 in a year and a day from now. It's just, I want to have a way forward with my collection and a lot of other things in my life, but we're going to focus on the collection part. I want to have that way forward by the time I turn 30, kind of know what I'm doing, have my niche, have it programmed in so I just, I know what to do.
Can I stop you right there and tell you you're putting way too much pressure on yourself?
Thank you. You're probably right. You're definitely right. And I'm trying to work on that too.
I love you, buddy, but don't put yourself in that box. It's just going to drive you insane.
It's a box that I've had drawn and redrawn since I was a kid. You're supposed to have certain milestones at certain points in time, and I know that's crap. I do understand.
You mean from the life perspective or the collection perspective?
Life perspective.
Okay, that's different then. Okay.
On the contrary, I think goals are healthy And it
Okay,
sounds
but
like
there's a
an
difference
attainable
between
goal.
a goal and
Yes.
like, if I haven't accomplished this thing by this point in my life, I'm a failure. Don't do that.
Correct. I'm moving away from what Nick just said into what Paul said. I'm making that shift. But part of that, the goal in general, is to have a way forward with my collection, because right now it's well, let's talk about how I got to where I am tonight. First off, I spent a not insignificant amount of money on new totes this year, and if you were on the show 2 weeks ago with Peter, you know he has this whole thing about totes. We have to get that specific kind, and I get that. I do it too, but there's less of them. I got all Container Store archival totes for my toys. The cardboard doesn't mess with them anymore. They're all in non-leaching plastic. Hopefully it works. So they're all there. So I've seen all my collection this year, and approximately 75% of it is in bins, #bin life, in my closet. And that's cool. I live in an apartment. It's not the biggest. There we go. Nice. I live in an apartment. I don't have a ton of space to do it, but that's where Rob came in, because Rob is essentially my collecting display goal. I've seen his display numerous times throughout the years as he was building it and as it is now. That's what I want. I can't have it. So until I can, how much do I need to store? What needs to go? What needs to stay? What's a part of me? What isn't? What's a side project? What's the main project? So we're going to work on that. In addition to that, this year was super trying just because it was this year. But also on top of that, I started a project to keep track of how much I was spending on my collection. Every dollar that went into it. Now that we're 12 months in, I can highly recommend not doing that.
No.
Knowledge that you can never, ever unlearn.
You need to track.
From this year.
You need to track your purchases. You need to know what you're spending, and you need to corral that.
Yes. And I need to corral it so much that it needs to be about half of what it was this year. Half. Which is cool. The issue is, I don't think this year was an aberration. It didn't feel like I got a whole bunch more stuff than normal. I think I've been spending this way for a really long time.
Probably have.
I think this year is more of a return to normal, I would say, in some way, because the Selects line has really picked up steam this year, which is kind of replacing what used to be a lot of expenditures at Toys R Us exclusives and BotCon and exclusives and the Transformer Club subscription service. We used to have those things which went away, and now they're back. Effectively, it's under a different name, but it's kind of the same thing. Really, collector oriented throwbacks and kind of more niche type stuff that isn't on a shelf.
Yep. I like that guy.
I think the thing that's hard for me, and I know you talk about the late stage collecting, whereas I kind of feel like looking at my collection now at the end of the year, and I'm like, you know what? I'm pretty happy with my collection, like a lot of the Earthrise and whatever, right? But I probably would have said the same thing last year. And then how many figures between last year and this year have I gotten? And I was happy with it, before, and I'm happy, I don't know. That's the thing that's hard. But the thing I also think is hard too is your taste change and your perspective change and all that, and what you really enjoy. I'm sure that what you enjoyed 15 years ago, 10, 5, years ago, whatever, is completely different than what you enjoy now. 5 years ago, you were probably Masterpiece is the way forward. That's what I'm gonna do, and then. Now you've sold it all off, and Rob is yelling at you about it.
And they went and fucked up Masterpiece, and so you sold it all off?
Disagree hard, but that's a different discussion.
XTB Wind Charger was the straw that broke the camel's back for me.
Ooh,
those wrists suck so bad.
I didn't even own it, and it broke my back. It was the time before they reissued it, so you would have to pay astronomical prices to get it. And he was the one I had left to get the art crew finished. And I looked at it and I was like, I don't like half of these art crew guys. Anyway, that's a whole other discussion. But Lucas is right. I mean, I was happy with my collection last year. I'm happy with all the things I got this year. And I want to say, clear and unequivocally, I do not regret, nor do I feel shame about anything that I bought this year.
Good.
That's not what it is. It's just that the amount that it was is untenable. You know, I have other things I want to do with my life. You know, save for cars.
Nick
houses,
has left the call.
weddings, babies, or whatever. You guys have all done those things. So it's like,
Nope,
gotta
no
call it,
babies.
Nick.
I was gonna say, not all of us.
I have my cats. They make me happy. No babies here.
Too, but
I can borrow other people's babies and take
No,
them to,
I
like,
can't,
you know,
I can't
Sesame
put
Place and
everything
shit. and get back when I'm
into
done.
robots. I was watching Real Steel with my family a couple weeks ago, and do you guys remember that movie, the robot boxing movie with Hugh Jackman?
I know it exists.
There's at one point when he meets his son, and his son wants a bunch of money that the dad owes the son, and he's like, "The money's gone. I spent it on a robot." And I really related to that.
Where's my college? It's an Optimus Prime over there.
So mostly I want to not have to say the money's gone. I spent it on a robot anymore. So I've measured this year. That was the goal.
Money's
Now
gone.
I've started a
in the
separate
circle.
account. What do you say, Nick?
Sorry, Empire Records. Don't pay me any money.
I've started a separate checking account just for toy money that I fuel every month to have an actual budget, which is the first thing Rob taught me. Have an actual budget. So we're going to see how that works.
Okay.
The
My
one
budget
thing
is-
I think that's tough about budgets is just like you have to kind of figure it out and average it out over like the whole time, and that's hard to do. And so like to me, I feel like what's going to happen is you're going to have like January hit or whatever, December or something like that, and you're going to have like Kingdom and Studio Series 86 and like all these things and like third party, like all this stuff is going to get a rush in before Chinese New Year, right? Then Chinese New Year is going to happen, and like you're not going to have toys for a while. I'm like, oh, I'm doing really good on my budget. I can go ahead and like buy a couple more toys, and then like you're over your budget because
Those are noob mistakes.
Yep.
Like,
You can't
unless
make
this-
I can't make that mistake anymore.
Unless you just started collecting now, you know how this shit works. If you get a low month, then it rolls over and you can spend it next month. But some people say, well, you know what? I can go into debt for this month because I bet next month won't be as bad. It'll be just as bad.
It's always bad.
It's always
know,
bad.
Yeah.
You know,
it's gonna
unless
happen.
all of a
Never
sudden
recovers.
Hasbro drops every pre-order that's late all at one time, and you have the month of December this year. Oh, and some of the ones that are early from next year.
Who accounts for Chinese New Year?
Nobody.
Well, if you're collecting these kind of toys, you need to.
I was gonna say you should like that's
You
pretty much the
absolutely need to
schedule.
figure that into your planning.
Never.
Yep. I need to get a calendar and start budgeting that way too, because if it's a monthly budget, then I kind of can see what's coming.
And this gets back to something that actually me and Nick talked about like 2 or 3 years ago. Nick, you may not even remember. It was just like a throwaway thing.
How drunk was it?
I don't think at all.
Well, then I probably remember it.
It was just like a throwaway comment. We didn't like sit and discuss it, but it stuck with me because of how much I'm like Mr. Budget guy. Like you roll over your budget and you keep explicit track of it. And I lost my train of thought. Son of a bitch.
All right.
If you roll it over, there can be extra for when it's heavy months.
Yeah. Oh my god.
That's the
I mean,
goal.
I think the thing that's hard is that like now there was a time where a lot of stuff went on clearance and you could just like you could just apply that and be like, well, I'm not going to get X figure until
I will wait for
whatever.
everything
I'm
to
going to
go
wait
on
on it or whatever. Well,
Those
like
days are
with
over.
all like. There's some you can, but like, okay, Masterpiece pre-orders or whatever. Well, if you want to get the good price, you got to get in the pre-order. The fans toys, like those sell out, or your your main, like some of the exclusives. So like, if you have mainline stuff, like just the regular stuff, like I'm sure you could wait on some of that. But like exclusives and whatever, if you're snoozing on some Amazon pre-order, like you're not going to get
I got
it.
it.
Pay the snooze
I
tax.
remembered what it was.
Yeah.
It's when you pre-order something, it comes out of the budget. You don't say, "Oh, it'll come up later." No, you mark that in the budget when you do the pre-order. Like the only thing I don't mark when I pre-order is like if I pre-order something from like Big Bad, the cost of that toy comes out like whatever that order is, which now has tax in it. But then when I go to ship it, the shipping will come out of the budget when that happens because I don't know what now it's all $4, but you get what I mean. Some different places
when shipping was a unique and different charge every time, you couldn't plan ahead.
And if you're buying stuff overseas, that can still be the case, depending on where you're buying from.
Right.
When you pre-order, you take it out of your budget right away. You don't say, "Oh, I have it, locked in." No, you don't. You haven't set money aside for that. And for what it's worth, like I keep a virtual budget. It's in a spreadsheet every month. I make a copy of the spreadsheet, or make a new sheet in the book. And just say, "Here's how much rolled over."
Isn't the balance necessarily? That's a good tip.
I mean, there's a balance. Every month I give myself X dollars, and again, money rolls over into it. And when I pre-order it, I mark it in, and I know where it is. I keep a list of all my pre-orders, just so I know where crap is ordered from.
And I mean, I feel like it's a little bit different though for you too, because you have most of your collection kind of filled and you're doing Masterpiece, and so it's like you've got one figure that comes up every X number of months, whereas and I think a lot of
it's in waves too. It's in waves too, like 3 or 4 third-party things will drop. I mean, these are all like $100-$200 toys now. And it's like boom, 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 and then it's like and then nothing, and then boom, 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 boom. But it's the same. I know it's going to happen. So when the budget gets a couple months high, that's fine, because it's going to come out of. And so the first month you start doing it, it's going to be harder, because you're going to be somewhere in that cycle. But that's it's what separates the wheat from the chaff. Is do you stick to your guns? Because people talk about the snoozing tax, and that's definitely a thing. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, it comes back around. If it's an exclusive, maybe not. But like Scorponok, it came back around. Fans Toy stuff gets reissued all the time. They reissue so many of their toys. So you're like, I miss Thomas. Well, now you can be on the eye for the next time that reissue comes around, because they will absolutely reissue it. Right. It's going to happen. Like, it comes around.
All of that's true until it's not.
Oh, damn, right. The one toy you missed, and you didn't wreck your budget to get that one toy, and now maybe you have to pay double for it. And guess what? You can budget it, and you can save for it if it's.
I'd be more angry about paying double than I would be about breaking my budget.
Are we still on Planet Christian right now, or did we go into outer space?
You're still on my planet.
Okay.
We're gonna shift hemispheres in a moment here, but we're still here.
So one thing that I kind of thought about this was, and that I've talked to Anna about, is like, if you go over your budget, right, you sell stuff. So like, let's say that you have eBay sales or whatever, Facebook sales, whatever, that you can apply that towards your budget.
Absolutely.
And so I think, because that works for me. Now, obviously, it's not going to work for everyone, probably not for Paul or whatever. But for me, like, I have a finite amount of space. And, like, I'm like Catherine, where, she said earlier that it's either on the shelf or it's off to eBay. And so that's where, currently right now, like, I have a bunch of my Siege stuff that I have in a bin. But, like, I'm waiting a couple months to see, like, if I want to sell it. And so, like, that's kind of the way I'm trying to handle it.
The only reason I, said that is because every time you're just burning money in a fire. All you're doing is making eBay money, and you're just probably coming out under what you paid for that stuff in the end. Especially
it's not an investment.
Yeah,
I know.
Not an investment.
I'm just saying, you're paying for it one way or another.
It's a hobby, and so you budget your hobby and your extra funding, and you talk about, well, what about if you pay double? I'll be mad. If it's money budgeted out, the way a budget works is your money has destinations. So you don't have the money for it, which means you're putting it on a credit card or something, at which point now you're paying interest. You are paying double for a bunch of things now. And that's why it's better to snooze on the one thing and pay the late tax if you really want it. And honestly, that's like a lot of just FUD. Like, yeah, it's going to get you once or twice, but if you're patient, it'll show up again. We're old enough to know that. Or, again, if you really care about it, you will make the room in the budget for it. And maybe you find out, it's not worth that for you. Like, I don't have a Grand Max. I could have bought a Grand Max when they were like $800. I didn't. Now they're like $2,000. And I don't $2,000 want it. That's fine.
Well, on the other hand, I am on that other side of the bell curve right now. I'm about to make the biggest Transformers purchase of my life, because it doesn't come around.
You're in a
Tell me
unique
later.
space.
I'm getting
Yeah.
the impression you don't want to talk about it on the air, but I need to hear that later.
Well, he just did.
We can talk about it later. Lucas knows what I'm talking about, but I'll I just wanted to put it out there that exists. You know, like I'm looking at this item. It's something I want, but I'm like really thinking about it as an investment because it's so expensive. And I'm like, the last time I had a chance to get this, I was not willing to pay that. But like, here it is the next time, 10, 15 years later, I'm willing to pay more. Is this like a piece of art that will continue to leapfrog, or am I the top of the game? I don't want to be the top of the game, but I also want this thing really bad.
If you want to buy it, it has to be because you want it. Do not invest in toys.
Agreed. And that is why I'm getting it. I'm getting it but it's a prestige piece.
Yeah.
it's kind of like once it happens.
Yeah.
If I want people to know, they'll know. But
this is one of those where that's an outlier, and I don't want people to take these outliers as a reason to not have a budget. Because 99%, like a lot of people that I personally have ran into or I've met or I've known or I've heard stories from, they're just, they're not, a lot of them aren't even collecting Masterpiece. They're just buying chug stuff. And, they're overspending their budgets for it. Like their real life budget, like bills.
Yeah,
that's really
that's not.
And it's like,
don't do that.
It's like, dude, get a budget. And that's for most people. Like, like Paul's he's in a different world, like with Rick.
It's still but I wanted to.
Well, that's
I just wanted
different.
To bring it up because it's a little like we don't talk about those things very often. Most people like act like that's crazy, and sure, it may be, but it is within reason because I really don't buy things for my collection unless they're these kind of crazy pieces, and I haven't bought one since January of last year. So
but there's
it's things... like it's in my budget, my time budget, and my accumulated budget. I'm not as strict about it as you guys, but these things don't come up all the time.
Are you taking a loan out on your house for it? So that's what I'm saying.
I'm cashing in my BTC, baby.
Get a better interest rate there than on your credit card.
Basically free.
But when we're talking about budget, that's what we're talking about. It's like you actually have the money for it. If it's pre-orders and you want it, you set the money aside for it. Like I said, mine's a virtual budget, but the money is there, and I know it's there because I know what I make and I know what my bills are. It's things like that. It's not putting on a credit card. It's not going into interest. It's not. I mean, if somebody wants to say, I want to spend more on toys, especially if you're single, and you're like, I'm going to eat ramen and spend more on my hobby, dude, you do you. Like, because honestly, ramen's fucking awesome, and I love ramen. I think that's totally fine, but that's the point of the budget, is to not overspend, and then people regret it later, and then they complain about it because they've now made their hobby unhappy for them, instead of letting the hobby work for them. And, Nick, cover your ears, earmuffs. You can't have everything. You can have everything.
Yes, I can.
But you know what? You know what you can have? You can have a lot of stuff that you love. You can absolutely have a lot of stuff that you love and that you enjoy. And you were talking to Lucas about, you're like, I love the way my collection looks now, but if you asked me that 2 years ago, I would have said the same. And I've replaced all those figures. That's totally fine too. Like, and I mentioned this to Christian when we were powwowing a month ago. When you're early and you're collecting, if you get rid of something, it's because you don't like it. You're like, I don't like this anymore. I'm getting rid of it. And so when you're in the late stage transformerism and you're getting rid of something, it almost feels like you're saying, oh, I don't like this. But maybe you do, or maybe you did. And your taste change is fine. Or you know what? When you were a kid, did you keep your toys forever? Yeah. Peter and Nick notwithstanding. You got whatever the new thing was, you played with it for a year or two, and then it was in the yard sale. It's okay to enjoy something and be done with it and still really like it. But decide, what, I don't need to own it anymore, and cycle it out. And that's what I do a lot with a lot of the chug stuff I've been getting rid of to make room for other things.
And see, that's what I'm kind of the opposite end of the spectrum for Masterpiece. It's like, you know what, I I owned it. I enjoyed it, for years. And, now I'm ready to, move on to a different phase. And, it hurts. And honestly, like, I went through and I've sold, like, I sold some of my MMC stuff and I sold some of my stuff to Rob. And then I've, like, rebought some of those items and whatnot, So.
All this from Christian.
Yeah, but like I think that's the thing that's hard is that as you go along and you get more stuff, it's like sometimes you have to start making tough choices because you're like, this is a really cool figure, but does it fit into my collection? And again, like you said, what is the size of your collection? Like I know that I have X amount of space, and so I can't go over. And so as cool as Transformers Prime is or whatever, it's like, well, I can't get there. Or like the new Masterpiece. I mean, I've really wanted that new Optimus Prime, and I think that there was like some crazy sale that I saw it on like a couple months ago for like $250 or $200 or something like that. And I was really, really tempted. I was like sending it to people like, what do you think? And it's like, I know the problem is if I get this, I'm going to be
You have
like,
such
I'm gonna get
Masterpiece
this too.
withdrawal.
Yeah,
Like no one I've ever seen before.
Yep.
What you need to do is you need to move to Tennessee, and you can come by and get your free hit whenever you want, and then you can go back to your home tent.
No, exactly. That's what I think. Part of it is that we don't have the conventions, because you always get to see those like the Chosen Prime booth or the, Agabus or whatever at there, and I could see all those figures in a really neat, well lit display, and I don't get that these days. So.
Kind of give you a little bit of a fix. And you're like, that looks awesome. I don't need to buy it, but it looks awesome. And now I've seen it in person. Cool. I can move on.
Christian, is this helping? Because you haven't spoken in a while.
Yeah. lead us some more, Christian.
It is.
Tell us to shut up. Interrupt us.
I'm happy to take the complete opposite here if you want.
Oh, I'm expecting you to. I'm surprised you've waited this long, but I want you to wait just a little bit more. Because what Lucas just talked about and what Rob just talked about, getting rid of stuff that doesn't fit. I feel like a really big problem I have at this moment in time is I don't know what does and doesn't fit for me. I've kind of collected, at least bits of everything that's existed. Everything. And I know what my main goals are, and I'll tell you about them. But I have like these sub goals that I've had in the past that I don't want to let go of. And I have future goals that may or may not come to pass because they're impractical. So I want the next couple minutes to be figuring out, how do you figure out what fits? Where do you go when something doesn't fit?
First off,
yeah,
you take a sabbatical from your job, you buy a bunch of robes, and you travel off on a pilgrimage to the top of a hill and meditate on your plastic crack. And then you hear the Lion King sing in the background.
Now. I was unemployed for 7 months this year. I can't really afford to do that, but it's a good idea.
So you just gotta.
I bring you these 10 collecting commandments.
Man, if I brought
He's returned from the mountain.
And then lightning.
Seriously, go to Japan. That's the pilgrimage right there.
Someday.
I was being facetious, obviously.
I know. You're not wrong though, and perhaps a sabbatical from the collection might help. We'll see. We'll talk about that too.
Well, real quick, I want to bring up one thing. You're going to go into these goals. I don't know if you're going to line list them or what, but there's a goal you've done before that you completed, right? Which was the collection of the Classics Optimus mold.
Yeah, we'll get to those.
Which you completed it, and then didn't you spread it to the wind? Didn't you sell them? So I mean, what was the point?
The point was to do it, and that's actually like my fourth point here. But we're going to skip to it because you're mentioning it. I've done that a couple different times. Yeah, I did it with the Age of Extinction Optimus Primes. I've done it with Seekers, which is not every version, but every version that I want. I've also done it with the Robots in Disguise Car Brothers, with Autobot Brothers, Sideburn, X-Brawn, and Prowl. I have every version of those molds. I've got most versions of the Spy Changers at this point.
I guess
Prime First Edition Optimus Prime.
the question is, if you're gonna complete a goal and then disperse it, you're done. You did it.
Yes.
Like, I don't want it anymore. Like, I just don't know what
Why you would
the
do
benefit
it in the
of
first
like
place.
completing the goal is.
Yeah, and this is so.
And you have
guys
to answer
probably
that, I
heard
guess.
me. I'm gonna get to that. Well, I'm gonna try to get to it. So you guys have heard me talk about the past couple months that I have decided to complete Cybertron, to get the whole run, because that was the line that brought me from kid to collector. It's very nostalgic in that way. I miss when toys were like that. They're better now in a lot of ways. They're not as good in a lot of ways. It's subjective, but Cybertron is like my jam. So I want to collect the whole thing.
That's a good line.
But I realized, just like with those Classics Optimus, is that once I collect the whole thing,
Then
I'm
what?
gonna get rid of a bunch of it and distill it back down to my favorites. So why don't I just skip that step and not do that goal? But then
If
I don't
you're-
have a collecting goal.
So
All right, so
Oh,
if
some
you're
of us-
thinking that,
vintage goal.
if you're thinking that, you need to not do it.
Yeah.
Yes. And what I've come to instead is to go through it again, because I've accumulated several towards this goal up until this point. I need to go through it again and distill it back down to my favorites. And I think a more manageable goal there is to collect the showcast, because I watched that show religiously. I thought it was very good. I hated Armada. I hated Energon. I liked Cybertron. It was better. I was a kid. Don't worry about it.
Paul, some of us are toy foster parents. So we like to rent our toys, keep them for a small
foster parents
bit.
rent their kids.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't like that.
yeah.
I
don't think
shouldn't
it works.
say-
Okay.
I didn't
I shouldn't put it
Move
that
on.
way. But
I get what you're saying, though. I
we like
appreciate
to rehome our toys and whatnot. They enjoy them for a little bit, and then
And that's
know.
healthy.
That's fine. It's a very foreign, misunderstood concept to me, but I know everyone does it, so there's nothing wrong with it.
Those
I
short
wanna-
goals like that, I call those short goals because they're finite. I mean, you could do it. It's a thing that's possible. Not like Nick's goal. That's not possible. We'll get to you, Nick. I'm sorry. But of the finite goals, the Classics Optimus Prime is the only one that I've ever dispersed. Cybertron is now the second if I go through with it. Otherwise, I have a complete line of Power Core combiners that I really love. I really loved them then, but I haven't displayed them in years. I have alternators, kind of the same deal. And all those other mold collections that I told you about like a couple minutes ago. I feel like those... Oh, and I've completed bots. I have every bot. But, like, do I really need every bot?
Yes.
I know I'm, like,
You
the
say
only
no, I'm
guy
gonna
who does
beat
it right
you.
now, but... What?
If you say no, you don't need every bot, I'm gonna beat you.
That probably means you
I
do
don't-
need to get rid of them then. If Nick's
I'm
saying
going to
he's going to
drive
beat you
down to
about
North Carolina and beat you with a switch.
it, I'm get the
For
greenest
all of the,
switch I
like,
can
hassle
find
and
off the
grief.
tree.
And I got to get all of these bots and like the freakouts you and I have had together. And then if you're gonna like turn your back on the bot love, I swear to God,
no.
I-
I'm
This
not
is
gonna turn
not
my
the
back on
time
it.
to
Here's
get
the
rid of your
thing,
bot
though.
bots.
Here's the thing that I'm really struggling to come to terms with. The toys are not the memories. The toys are not the experiences. Like, just because I would get rid of those bots, I'm not saying I will. It doesn't mean we didn't have those freakouts together. It doesn't mean that we didn't bond over them and hunt them down together. It doesn't mean that.
maybe the real bots were the friends we made along the way.
Exactly.
with a little bit less sarcasm, I
Bedroom
do
buddies.
think so for some people collecting is the fun. And they think, what would be cool? Seeing all of
I agree with that.
Cybertron together. I think that would be cool. And they want to do it, and they do it, and they high-five themselves. And they're like, mission accomplished. Cool. I'm done now. Like I've known a couple times people that had like complete G1 collections, or like when the Hartmans did it, like they had all the things, and they're like, well, we did it. We climbed Transformer Mountain, and you're not climbing Transformer Mountain. You're climbing little Transformer hills. And you know what? And you're like, that was fun, but I'm ready to get down off the mountain now. For some people, that is the fun, is having a checklist, checking the checklist, seeing the checklist checked, and then selling it and moving on to the next thing. And keep your favorites if you want, or keep none of them. It's up to you.
Yeah, do they need to
fine.
stay with me forever?
Probably not.
And that's,
because you're asking the question. The answer is no for you.
You're right. But that's where I'm trying to envision a way to get to your collection room, essentially.
I can make that real easy for you.
What does my Omega collection look like? And I don't know that yet.
That's really easy to answer. It's what do you like best? Restrict it by space. And pick out your favorites. What gets left behind gets
we're going
raptured
up
up.
the list instead of down the list. But my main goal as a collector has been to get a modern version of every character. SG-1, Beast Wars, Rid, Unicron Trilogy, whatever. If they were a character that is unique to themselves, I want this classics, whatever classics is now, representation of them to all be together. That's what I want.
But
right
the thing
now, with the War for Cybertron stuff, especially starting in Earthrise, these are the figures that I've always wanted.
The trouble
these are the figures I've always wanted. Why do I have other figures now?
The thing that's hard is that you're always chasing that dragon that you're like,
right.
Oh, the Optimus, whatever, Siege Optimus Prime is great, like I love that. And then you're like Earthrise Optimus Prime. And then you're like, oh, this new Netflix.
Well, to be fair, I never thought Siege Optimus Prime was good.
But
to be fair.
I'm sorry, Classics Optimus Prime. And then, whatever, Earthrise came out. And then you're like, oh, wait, they have slightly different color variations on the Netflix Prime. That's better.
You're right, it's not easy.
Look at that. Like, that's the thing that's hard.
On that note, and this is something you said some point in the past month, Lucas, you talked about how, like, Earthrise was your most favorite thing ever, or Siege was your most favorite line ever, and you thought it was the best ever, and you're like, now I've gotten rid of them all. And it doesn't mean you didn't love that line, but you're like, these are all even more better. I've really come to terms, and I'm completely fine with like switching out toys for the character, and that's part of the fun to me. Is here's a new version. I get to enjoy this character again in a new way. I'll sell the old one because it's not an investment. I paid for it. I enjoyed it. I'll get some money back and put it back into the collection, into the budget, and buy the next version, and that's fine too. And I'll enjoy it until something new comes out that replaces that spot in my collection, and I'm totally fine with it. That's my hobby. But I do get tired of listing shit on eBay, which is why Nick's probably going to get an extremely poorly packed box of plastic.
Oh, don't do that.
Oh, yeah,
that's what's the stuff.
I am not bubble wrapping that garbage, even
you
if
don't have
some
to
of it.
Bubble wrap it individually. Just put bubble wrap in between the layers.
I'll probably do that much, maybe. But if it comes broken, I don't care. Just sell it for less. I'm actually going to put. I'm going to put Torka in there. Torka's on the shelf. I'm going to throw it in the middle. I'm just going to put Torka in the middle.
I mean, the one thing that I'll say is besides the budget is again, like, I have a finite amount of space and shelves and whatever. And so that's where I'm like, say, Christian, you said again that your Cyberverse, or no, sorry. Which line was it? Cybertron, sorry. Cybertron line that that you would think about just doing the favorites or whatever is that I'm like, okay, my Cybertron display is going to be on X number of shelves on this bookcase, or it might be an entire bookcase or whatever. That like I want to make a cool display out of that, and then that's done in whatever. And so it doesn't have to have everything and whatnot on it. And like you've seen my G2 display that I have and like European stuff and whatnot that I showed on that. And so that's like, for me, like that's done, and I can put, plant my flag in that and say, all right, good deal. And so that's where I kind of feel like you have to get to is, now you don't necessarily have the space, but like, okay, you could probably equate like a bin to X number of bookshelves. Like, figure out like how many bookshelves that you plan on having, or DTOS or whatever.
Did Rob switch brains? Because this is an exact conversation he and I had that inspired this topic. I don't know what my space is, but he has an idea to keep his whatever masterpiece guys on this number of shelves, and he has his remaining BotCon dudes on 2 shelves, and he's got his Beast Wars guys on 1 shelf, and that's the space that they have. If they go over that, then someone's got to jump out and go to eBay. I can't do that because my eventual space is dubious at this moment. Who knows? But do I need 2,000 figures in storage? No, probably not. Not for me. It doesn't do me any justice because they're just sitting in the dark. It doesn't do them justice because they're just sitting in the dark. They could be in someone's collection being enjoyed and loved instead of just in a bin in the darkness for me.
I mean, the thing that's hard, though, is that, you probably want the same figures that a lot of people do now, and whatever you're selling is probably not things that people want now, and it all goes in cycles. And so that's the thing that's tough is that if you're throwing a bunch of bins to Nick and saying, here you go, buddy, to sell or whatever, you're getting pennies on the dollar. That's the thing that's kind of hard again.
Nick gives me quite a few pennies on my dollar. I'm happy with that relationship.
Right, but I'm just saying that it's as much as it's not an investment, you don't want to sell at bargain basement prices.
I mean, you're right.
That's the thing that's hard
but also, I work well with Nick because I don't want to take the time to list all the shit individually. I'll do it, for occasional items here and there. But Nick has the drive to do that, and his prices reflect that.
And the OCD to go through every single piece.
Yeah.
Even the broken bits at the bottom of the box I'm going to send you.
Me. It was great. It was not great. He hated it. I'm not doing that again, buddy. I promise. I could just box
Legos?
up this stuff. Yeah, the Legos.
So Lucas, Lucas, what you're bringing up makes part of one of my points for me. Not that I think you're disagreeing with me or anything. The point is, most of it is not what people are interested in right now. It doesn't sell well, which means if you get rid of something that you actually just are like, man, I literally regret getting rid of that, you can go reacquire it. Most of it is available. There are some things you should not do that with. If there's something that's there was only 200 of them made, and you're like, I'm not really interested in this anymore, unless you're just I'm definitely done with it. At which point, if it's something rare, sit on it for 6 months. If you still don't give a crap about it and it's annoying you to see it, yes, get rid of it. But if you're on the fence about something like that is literally kind of hard to find, even if it's not expensive, because expensive and rarity don't always go together. Some stuff is just hard to find. That stuff you may want to take a little more cautiously. But you're talking about anything that was mainline or mass produced or third party that's not called fans toys. Get rid of it, because if you want it again, you can probably get it cheaper. There's always outliers. We're not talking about exceptions here, people. And if you can always sit on it, throw it in the tub, let it sit for 3 months and see if you missed it. And lots of times you'll find out, I didn't, and I don't care. You may still like the toy. You're just I don't really need it anymore, though. You enjoyed it. Move on. That's what you do with your kids. You go through the playroom, you grab up their old toys, throw it in a box, and see if they notice anything. And when they don't in 3 months, you chuck it out the window.
That's not what I thought you meant. I thought you meant hide your kids.
Oh, you do with your
kids. If you missed them. Yeah.
See, what I do is I throw things in bins, and then I'm too lazy to sell it. But then someone online on the Facebook groups is like, God, if only I could have X figure. I really want this. And I'm like, you know what? I have one of those. Do you want it? And then we work out a price, and they're super excited.
I did that 2 weeks ago. It was great.
Yeah, so that's always kind of a fun experience when
you're saying you guys take the bait.
What bait?
When someone throws out a question oh man, I wish I had this, you're come to the rescue and save them and sell it to them for probably less than you should.
No, I mean, it depends on the person. No, I usually try to sell it for, whatever I was going to get for it. Yeah. I mean, I do have a
and that guy's going fishing is what I'm saying. So you're... the guy's going fishing, and you're taking the bait.
So distrustful of everyone, Paul. Not everyone.
But he wanted to sell it. If you sell it for...
No, but it's because I'm lazy, and I don't want to have to throw it up on eBay and have to worry about whatever. It's and the person's always really happy whenever you do that. So, You need to sit there and talk to him and whatnot. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I get cash I
Numbers
didn't
game.
have, and I get space I didn't have. It's a win-win-win.
Until it isn't.
Ignore the exceptions. Ignore the
Just
outliers.
a numbers game.
I only-
1 out of
I only did that
15. Gotta
one
go
time.
bad.
And I worked it out.
You'll live.
Sold something to somebody for bro fan price because he is my bro fan, and he turned around and sold it for, like scalper price, and I was like, dude. And I made him split
not what
the
I'm
profit
talking
with me.
I mean, that's just, you deserve that. But I mean,
I
like,
did not deserve that.
things go bad.
He asked me to give it to him for friend price, and then he sold it for that. And I was like, that's not cool.
No, asking for the break and like the friend break and then flipping it is kind of jerky. If the guy lists it at a cheap price because he's helping out the group and you buy it, that's not really on you.
I'm talking about getting ripped off, not like, that's cute that sucks that happened, but like I'm talking about losing like money.
Yeah, I know. What
Paul's
you're
talking about some imaginary situation where you got some $1,000 toy sitting over and someone says, "Oh, I wish I could have that," and you're like, "Oh, I have one for something." Like, "Cool, I'll give you $100." And that's not what they were talking about.
Yeah, that's not what we do.
not at all.
No,
we're talking
you're
about.
putting fucking words in my mouth. That's not what I said. I'm talking about people that scam people out of money constantly, and it happens a lot.
That's
and
not what they
Facebook
were
is
talking
rife
about.
with it.
He's talking about the guys who play nice and constantly play poor and beg for the better deals from, and if only someone would take care of me, but on the side they're selling it all at a profit, and that's how they make their money. That's what he's talking about.
Or just that you're ripping someone off. But I mean, no, when we're selling this stuff, it's within the groups and all that. So I mean, it would be just the same thing if I listed it in the group. And
As long as you look up the prices beforehand, it's all the same.
And I'm not. I mean, you might give a
Paul's
little
making
bit
the
of
assumption
discount
that
or
you didn't.
whatever. Yeah. I don't do that. I'm not sure.
Stop making up what I'm fucking saying. I'm talking about people ripping off random people because you answer some rando's comment in a Facebook group and suddenly, I didn't get my package. And I already paid you, so I'm going to get all my money back. And then you're out of toy and your money and you're totally effed. And it happens a lot. The more you sell, the more often it's going to happen. So just warning you.
He's not talking about like our private Facebook group where there's just the bunch of us.
Oh, I know he's not. He's
It's
talking about
like,
Cybertron Cafe or something.
THC or whatever, yeah.
Well, if you're talking
Right,
about
but I
Cybertron
mean-
Coffee,
Lucas,
you
I'm
should
sorry I
say
said
that.
anything. I'm
No, I mean, I think that, like most of us have been around long enough to kind of like know what's going on with people, and you still check feedback and you do all that. I mean, you're not running a charity or whatever, and you're not going to, try to let
Or
feelings
spam up
get in
a
the way.
stranger.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's something where you saw it, like, someone makes a post in the group, says they're looking for something or whatever. It's not, like, necessarily in a comment, I don't know. Like, I've had some success. I think we're getting off topic with that anyway.
We're in space now. Come back.
What what other items do you have on your list here, Christian?
Mostly, the only thing I have left really is, how do I figure out what my collection is or is supposed to be? And then I wanted to hear a counterpoint from Nick to make this all go away, even though it won't.
You see, but that's the thing you're missing is you're not going to hear a counterpoint from me, Christian. I fully believe that you need to do what you need to do to rein in your collecting to a way that makes you happy. Not everyone can be a fucking psychopath trash pile like I am. I am garbage. I don't know if you've caught on to this yet. I am trash.
I wouldn't say you are trash.
No.
You're collecting
You're
happy
my
I'm
trash.
telling you, I am a trash fire of a human being.
You are
And you
not.
should not want to be like me. So collect what makes you happy because it makes you happy. Don't collect everything and get mad at the
Everything.
200 things that come out a year that are wrong, and they should just know by now to get them fucking right, and what the fuck is wrong with them. Don't do that. Don't go down that road. It's a bad road. You deserve better. You deserve to treat yourself better. And if you're setting limits for yourself, God bless you. But don't do it out of some obligation to society or some obligation out of I'm getting older. Do it because it's what you want. And that's the best
to
advice I
get
can-
older, but yes, I see what you're saying.
Now if we're gonna go, full unfiltered, Nick is a psychopath. What the fuck is a budget? Why the fuck would you ever sell anything? You collect everything because you're trying to complete the run. buy it all. He who dies with the most toys wins. And that's what y'all came here for, so you're welcome.
So Nick, I am curious. Like you mentioned, like you have to collect what makes you happy and all that kind of thing. And I know that you have been unhappy with some of your collecting and whatnot. Like, so do you ever think that this advice you're giving to Christian to apply to yourself as well?
No. No, but seriously, listen. I complain about a lot of things loudly, but I also celebrate a lot of the things that I love. I'm the first to go, this is a really good toy, you should get this one. In terms of the things that, like, piss me off, they piss me off because there is a right way to do it. Nothing frustrates me more than when a thing is that close to what it should ought to be, and other things have been the right thing. But this time out, they dropped the ball, and it's like, okay, but I know you know what you're doing. I know you know how to make this right. Why have you suddenly changed the recipe and fucked everything up? It didn't have to be this way. That frustrates me more than anything else in terms of my collecting. There are movie toys that I love. I don't hate every movie figure, and I think sometimes I project this persona where I just hate everything movie related. And while, yeah, I hate all the fiction involved, there have been some good toys. There have been toys that have changed what I thought about what a Transformer could be. It's not all garbage. And then there are things like Studio Series Bumblebee. No, I don't care which one. Pick any one. They're all fucking terrible. And it shouldn't be that way. Especially when all of the later toys
that way.
So good. Huh?
Should it be that
way? But yeah, I mean, like, listen, really, I do buy everything, and the majority of it does make me happy. I only don't like when things are needlessly complicated or they miss the mark when I know they could get it right. That's all. I hate exclusives. Nothing should be exclusive because I just want to buy the thing. I don't care how rare something is. That's not what tickles me. I don't give a shit. I want the thing. I don't want to have to go line up outside the Nike store that never gets the stock on the sneaker and the figure that they say they were going to have. I don't want to do that ever again in my life. I don't want to fight with Walmart to actually send me a thing and follow through on the promise. It's like, you say you're going to make a deal, you follow through. And I don't want to have to... These are the things that drive me crazy, not the toys themselves.
That has been frustrating this year. That one hasn't gotten to me yet, although the Amazon cancellations recently have been unacceptable.
They never do that shit.
Cancellations.
And like all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, oops, we're not getting all of our order. It's like, it's your order. It's your exclusive. How did you not know how many you were getting?
Right.
What's gotten me lately is that
What's the deal with reservations? You said you had the spice, but then you did. You gave it away.
Right.
I don't think you know what it means.
I've gotten so much in over the past couple weeks. Like, if you look at my budget, about a quarter of what I've spent all year has been in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And there's so much on my unopened... I have a rack where I keep all my unopened stuff. Mm-hmm. There's so much on the rack right now that I don't want to open any of it because it's like insurmountable. And that doesn't make me happy. That's not a real thing that should happen. You shouldn't have so many toys that you don't want to open them. Like, what the heck?
What? I don't understand.
I know you don't.
We've talked a lot,
and I get it, and I understand where you're coming from, and like everything you have said is reasonable, and for the most part logical, and like it's all about taking better care of yourself, man.
Yes.
And that's all well and good. And I think more people should do
figure
that.
out how to do it.
Yeah.
I think you guys have given me some really good ideas. Paul, yes.
Do you have like a vague, as vague as you want, like a vague idea of what you're going for? Because I've heard you say you want a Rob room, but you want less stuff, or you want what you want. Like, After this discussion, are you any closer to defining those parameters?
So
Or even
yes.
don't have even maybe they're not even parameters yet. Just like
Yeah.
paint
So
the picture.
Rob's room is still my eventual room. Not that I'm going to go to Tennessee and take over Rob's space, but what Rob's looks like and what he's done.
So you're gonna have a
That's
lot of
what
Ninja Turtles.
And some Batman.
Well, okay, but you can
PF
swap
Con.
out Ninja Turtles for
PF
his Marvel
Con
Legends or whatever, but
Yep.
the point stands.
Yeah.
Yes. So what is it that I want to fit on those shelves? And that's what's next, and that's what I'm having trouble with. I mentioned that classics goal. That's the main thing that I do.
So
But the Cybertron goal was there. I've recently decided I wanted to get an updated team of 3H wreckers because those guys mean a lot to me in those stories.
Yeah.
You know, I've got the DJD complete now. I want to keep those forever because that's just imposing. You know, my Secret Butterfly collection, I think that's always a part of me. The bot shelves when they're all together like that, you know, that's like a hallmark of what I am as a collector.
the things
So,
you are
like-
listing off, that's the high points, and
Right.
that's what you need to focus on.
Yes.
Yes. But what I do with the not that.
You enjoy
Get
it
rid of
until
it.
you're done with it.
Yeah.
You enjoy it until you look around and go, huh, I have too much crap. It's time to purge a category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you purge the category. You don't just purge
Yeah.
it all at once up front because unless you need the money or the space right now, why bother?
You're right,
Right.
but it's something I need to work on.
So
Like maybe every
I-
6 months take a look and say, you know, what's still here and what fits in my Rob room and what doesn't.
I think the main thing is that you have to look at your collection and like if you look at a figure and you're like, should I sell it? Like you probably should. Or like, and I think that you should really the biggest thing I think going forward is look at that ahead of time and say, do I
Yes.
really want that? Because like I kind of reached this point with like the mainline stuff myself, right? Where it's a bunch of these Amazon exclusives. I'm like, I really don't care. Like, or the Target ones, like the clones and the set they have come out with Barricade and whatnot. You know, right? I'm like, I don't need that crap. Like, I already have that stuff, and so I canceled it all, and so
Ooh.
yeah. See, what?
Any light there?
Wait, I thought that wasn't
Mr.
coming out
Early
till.
Release.
I thought that wasn't coming out till March or whatever.
What? What? I don't. What? What?
But yeah, like I'm like, you know what? I don't need that stuff. So like, I just decided. So that's why I think that if you have that, like, I'm just getting it out of obligation because in order to complete the line or tick the box
Yes,
or whatever kind
I'm
of
gonna
thing.
stop
like
you
that.
there. The obligation. I don't know if I need to be obligated to my goal anymore. You know,
Not if it's not
The-
fun anymore.
right?
It's a goddamn hobby.
And looking forward, like you mentioned, the Cybertron goal that I've talked about. I know that I'm gonna not have all of it forever, so why get all of it now?
Yeah, don't do
And
that.
you know, to Rob's point, it's a thing to do, and it's a thing that would make me happy, and I could say, "Boom, I did it," and then get off the hill. To Lucas's point, I could not do it because eventually it's not going to be there anyway. I think there's probably some sort of middle ground to have in there, and that's what I'm trying to reach.
It's
Don't-
buy
don't
what
do
you
that. Don't
enjoy.
rent your toys if you know in advance you're only renting them. You can rent your toys if you think you're going to keep them. Like, oh, cool, I bought the new line this year, and the next line's coming out next year. It's like, well, I don't really need the whole line now. I'm going to sell the ones that I didn't care for as much or that I think have new guys coming. You can do that, and you can rent your toys that way. But if you're already...
If you're pre-selling it in your mind,
don't do
just
that.
skip out the middleman.
Skip
Skip
it
the Nick.
because all you're going to do is lose money. And at that point, that money could have been spent on a different toy.
So
Well,
I want to talk specifics. I want to stop talking in generalities here because I'm pretty good at organizing,
Let's do
and
it.
I'm pretty good at working out that. I think there's like two main processes I think you need to go through. Here's Rob's step to trimming down your Transformers fat. Step one is make a bucket of fuck it. So you got your fuck it bucket.
Fuck it, bucket!
Yeah, and you're gonna go around, and you're gonna look at, and be hard on yourself. And if you're doubtful of something, put it in the fuck it bucket. And this is just anybody that's overwhelmed with a room that's disorganized. You go through and you get rid of your trash. That's step one. Is you get rid of just stuff you just don't need anymore. It doesn't mean it's trash, but you're done with it. Anything that's just easy chops, you do that first. and then you see what you have left, because what you have left is what you have to organize. In this case, you don't have the room to organize at all. So put out the space you have, and this is what I did when I reworked this room from my cheap Walmart garage shelves to all my Billies, is I put up the shelves, and I just took my favorites out until it was full. And like my G1, I had a very specific way I wanted it to look. That line is done. So like there's a few gaps where it's like, you know what, if I get, such and such toy at some point, there will be room for it. But if not, the shelf still looks good. So I made some kind of those concessions, but a lot of it's like done. I laid them out. And as I got to some of the other ones, I let them get a little more crowded. But you take out your favorites until you're out of room. And what's left on the floor, that tells you where you need to be. And what you may find is sometimes, like, you know what? Like, because I did this. I was like, I have 4 shelves of Unicron Trilogy. I was like, I don't have room for 4 shelves of Unicron Trilogy. There's other stuff in the bins that I actually would rather get out more. I took stuff off of the Unicron Trilogy shelf. And in the past 2 years, that has now went down to 1 shelf from 4. It doesn't mean I hate all those toys. Actually, I enjoyed a lot of them. They meant a lot for me.
I wrote that down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw a wrench in your works here.
Well, hold on. So, with this priority, you're picking out what's your happiest that fits into your space. And, you've talked about how the space you have now isn't the space you'll hope to have tomorrow. And that's where, we talked about setting a number of how much you think is reasonable to have in storage. But the point is to set a number. Don't let it be infinities. And, and set that up beforehand. Nick is lost again. He'll join us in a minute. Set what that number is and stick with it. Because, like, for me and Lucas, we're already at the physical space. We're like, this is our space. This is what we have. When something gets full, I go through and I purge. And I over-purge because I don't want to do it every day. So I over-purge a little bit, and then it gives me, another 3-6 months to grow into it because we're still buying stuff. It's a hobby. Stuff comes in, stuff goes out because we're limited in that space. And you can do the same with, if you're like, 10 totes plus what my display space, that's my line. So fill up, keep your 10 totes, keep trimming down the rest until that's what you have. Maybe trim down to 8 or 7. Let yourself build up to 10 if you want, and then do it again until you get into that last space. Renting life is hard, and it's very different. But keep in mind that the majority of it you can get back later if you want. It's not really gone forever.
My wrench in the works that I'm going to throw in here is you may have limited space, but what if part of that space is a closet and you can store some bins there? And what if you every 6 months rotate your displays? If making displays is a thing that makes you happy, because maybe you secretly have that retail gene. If displaying your toys in different ways is a thing that makes you happy from time to time, maybe you just rotate your displays. And then how many collections you have doesn't matter as long as they all fit in that closet when they're not on the shelf.
That's not a wrench. That 100% aligns with what I was suggesting. Your space includes your closet in that case. Like, for me, it has to be on the shelves. For Christian in an apartment, it doesn't.
I would never suggest adding a closet to your equation. But
what about an infinity closet?
But that's okay. I guess it's not much different than a bin, right? It's not much different.
Like, to me, it's not adding the closet. It's here's how much space my collection is allowed to take up, whether that's on the shelves or, part shelf, part in some totes. That's all the same. It's you're putting a limit on it and you're making it stay within that, which is the same thing that goes with the budget. That's a dollar limit. This is a space limit. Whatever that is, you need to find it, else it's going to creep and take over your budget, and it'll take over your living space or your storage unit or your third storage unit.
Can I get specific for a second here for you, Christian? Since we've been harping on this Cybertron completist thing, which sounds like not really completist because you may get rid of some of the stuff once you get it. But I would focus on if you're going to collect all of Cybertron, I have some questions.
What's up?
Where does Galaxy Force play into this?
Where has the Japanese stuff play?
Where does packaging variants?
Ooh, yeah.
If he's a loose guy, I'm assuming you're a loose guy.
I'm a loose guy.
So what's important? Is it the molds or is it the releases or what? Because you might want to really think about that. And if you're going to be willy-nilly about it, for instance, maybe you look at what prestige pieces which I said earlier, if you remember, come in that line and would be valuable to you to have. For instance, the Galaxy Force Optimus Prime Sonic Bomber gift set is kind of the pinnacle of the
Right.
Optimus Prime mold for that line.
I
So
would
maybe
like to have that.
maybe that's what you have, and maybe you put Leo Breaker and Nemesis Breaker on that son of a bitch, and you have this centerpiece that looks insane.
I did that actually. Not with the clear one, but I did do that.
Yeah, but like that's kind of
And it looks awesome.
just
But
that
that's
in itself.
representative.
But that you
Yeah, and
mentioned
it would
that,
look-
and you
it would
asked about
stand out.
Galaxy Force. Kobe Ramble comes in that set, and he
He
only
does.
comes in that set, and I
He
would like to
does.
have a Kobe Ramble to go with it. So
I
you
had
asked where
one
Galaxy
once.
Force goes, it's dudes who didn't come out in the U.S. line from Galaxy Force.
See, you think like I do.
Okay.
So
Well, part of the coolness of that line is that some of the stuff did combine in interesting ways, and I kind of feel like, you might even have a chance to have multiple Optimus Primes because of all the combining that was done, and sometimes displaying those crazy combinations is sort of a linchpin to a collection. It's like, oh yeah, I have the clear Optimus, and he does have this lucky draw thing attached to him. No big deal, like stuff like that. If that's your goal, to have some I think it's always fun to have someone that knows your stuff and can flip out over like,
Yeah.
oh my
There is a
god,
lucky
you
draw
did
from
this
that line.
thing! I can't believe it! I only saw that in the box art. That's fun.
There is a lucky
Stuff's
draw
fun.
from that line that I would like. And
Oh.
I don't know if you guys know about the Flame Convoy Skylynx mode. That's the one I
Uh-huh.
want.
So I just
I
had something
do
dawn on me.
I do love that we're talking budgets before, and then Paul's bringing Lucky Draw into the equation. You're like,
You can make it fit.
Lucky draw.
You can make Lucky Draw on a budget. If you really want that, you save up until you can afford it and you go buy it. Well, you have to find it.
Yeah, good luck with that.
That's the problem with that one. That fits that really rare, unique piece. But I just had something dawn on me, Christian. And maybe I'm off base here, but maybe you can just sleep on it. I think you really like interesting displays. So like we can see the display behind you right now. That's not a typical display that people have. Your Seekers aren't that. Your bots aren't that. You feel like you really like interesting displays. You also like completing a checklist. I think we all like that to some degree. But I don't think you like displaying your checklist. And I think that goes a lot into what Paul just gave as, just kind of a potential example of, it's a cool display piece, but it's not a checklist. Can you make a checklist of cool displays? And that gives you some stuff that you want to keep because it's going to look cool when you finish it. So, like, what if instead of I want to collect all of Cybertron, you said, you know what? I want the coolest looking piece from each line of the Unicron trilogy. So, what is a cool display for Armada? What is and I'm just making this up. Maybe it's not this, but, one from Armada, one from Energon, one from Cybertron. Paul's throwing out from one, and that'll give you collecting goals that keep you interested in the hobby, that keep you getting that checklist dopamine hit.
Or here's
But
another
it's
crazy
stuff you're
thing
gonna
building
keep.
on that. What if you were making a scene on a shelf from each
Yeah.
one of those series, and you built out the scene as you got more crazy pieces or pieces that fit your scene, and you skipped the ones that don't?
And when the scene's done, it's done.
It's done.
And you want it. Like, you want to display it. It's already in your mind's eye. It's there instead of... And you'll find out a lot of the fodder you have goes into the fuck it bucket. And all of a sudden you get your space back, too. And your budget becomes a lot more meaningful because you're chasing down more expensive pieces. That's your real goal, not buying fodder. And so, you're rolling up that budget until one day that lucky draw, whatever the thing, shows up for $3,000, and you're like, today's the day. I've been saving my pennies, like I did with Grandis.
Slam
Make
that
it happen.
mouse.
It's an idea. It feels to me like
giving someone to sleep on.
it feels like it
Yeah.
might connect some of your dots because you like a checklist, but you don't like the shelf of masterpiece that everyone else has.
And again, I think that you could do that like with your current displays, like we were talking before about rotating the stuff and trying to figure out like, okay, of the stuff that you have in your bins, what can you make cool displays out of and what can you not? And so then, that's the stuff. Like if you're never gonna if you're never going to display it, like what's the point in having it? So like if it's part of the
Cover your
rotation,
ears, Nick.
Right, like why would you have that? Like why would you just have a bunch of bins of stuff and never ever display it, right?
Hashtag bin life.
Who would ever do that?
Catherine says,
All hail the bin
dangerous
god.
is the path of making scenes. Fun could be the path of making scenes.
I think in that regard, my Beast Wars and movie totes are going to have to take a heavy hit.
Yep.
I really like displaying Studio Series. Not all of it. I'm going to have to thin through that. But if I have Studio Series stuff, do I need the original stuff too? The answer, I think, is going to be no.
No.
Beast Wars.
Which I can tell you from dealing with eBay the last year or two that everyone
No one
else
else
has that
does
same
either.
idea, and they've all dumped their friggin' movie
That's
toys.
okay. A Kingdom is coming for a lot of Beast Wars stuff. Like, do I need the originals? They're not that great toys. I'll keep the ones I actually have.
You
when I
bite
was a
your
kid.
tongue.
How's it feel to be a G1er?
So,
Like I said, the toys we're getting now are the toys I've always wanted.
and we mentioned this when we talked a month ago. It's, you're going to make rules, and like you guys said on the show a couple weeks ago, like rules are meant to be broken, to me, except for space and budget. Those are my hard and fast. Everything else, like what you collect and where you focus. And sometimes you may just find you like something and it doesn't fit your rules, then keep it. If you have this, if it meets space and budget.
Your budget if you don't have one.
Like I have a couple of toys over here that they're the ugly ducklings that I keep. I keep them not because of how good they are, but because of how bad they are. Like I have a few of those dotted around because it brings me the reverse enjoyment. I was just like, oh, like I have Energon, Swoop, and Grimlock. And part of it is just because the time those came out, they were never good, but we were still so excited that it existed. Or I have a 30th, the 30th celebration RC, the Generations, and there's probably better. I don't know if the new figure's better or not.
It's not.
Okay.
It's comparable.
No.
But I had Fan Toys Rouge,
Watch
and
Microcasters for that.
I had I got the Masterpiece one coming or whatever. It's like I don't necessarily need that in my collection anymore, but it meant so much when that toy came out because it was like, holy crap, finally a G1 RC. I have Classics Bumblebee. That toy serves no purpose at all anymore.
It's so much fun. It's a good figure.
It's a good figure.
It's a
though.
good figure, but to me it's representative when Classics came out and we all shit ourselves over this filler line that it took Hasbro another 10 years to dedicate the main line to, right? So like there are toys that mean something to me even though they're not actually special. And I think that's okay, because I have space for them and they fit in my budget. So it's one of those you say, you know what, I want to do a collection of scenes, or I want to collect this line, or I wanted this and this is my new goal or whatever. Like, don't hardline yourself into it. It's figure out what's more important to you, what you would like more out of it. And again, it really helped me when I had it all in bins because I was putting up different shelves, and I picked out my favorites. That helped me. I just stuck to my guns on the space, and the rest of it fell into place. And it continues to as I need more space.
And if you create a box of weird garbage, then you can send it to Anna, and she'll love it.
Rob, did you just drop some beats there? Because like every line of that rhymed. Hip hop hippopotamus over here.
I'm the rhinoceros.
The rhinoceros. I'm glad our nerderies overlap in the same way.
Christian is a beast warner. I haven't heard that term before. Beast warner.
I just said they weren't good.
Yeah, I know. It's just the term.
It
The term
should.
is funny. Beast warner.
What? No. G1ers only like G1 and shun everything else. I like Beast Tours, but those toys aren't great.
But you're going through the
better one.
same cycle. The exact
Okay.
same cycle that is perpetuating. It's a pattern. Anyways,
That was my list of points. I think I've got enough to go on. None of my problems are solved, but my problems are now out there, and you guys have put up some interesting solutions that I'm definitely gonna have to think about.
See,
Hey,
I'm trying to sit
just have
there.
Talk about it.
I'm sitting there trying to figure out, like, coming up on Kingdom. Like, Kingdom really isn't the core of my collection and whatnot. And I always said that I wanted representations of these characters, but I'm like, man, does this really fit my collection? Well, I have it all on pre-order. I know, that's what I'm like.
You know what?
Yeah,
I
you
made
have no problem
cherry
canceling
pick.
pre-orders, Lucas.
What's that? I do. Oof.
Through that shade. I can't even see him anymore. He's so dim from all that shade.
Would you guys like to do a little bit of fun thing about my spending tracking this year? I'm not going to tell you how much, but I can tell you like my top 5 places I spent money. Anyone want to guess?
HasbroPulse.com?
Yeah. HasbroPulse.com.
I can guess one of them.
Oh, he's just like,
Oh, he's gone!
Ghosted
No, I'm
us.
still here. I have to access it in a different part of my phone.
The Hasbro police just cut him out.
Well, listen, while you're digging that up, I can tell you what I've spent per year for the last 5 years, according to my database.
Oh no. Oh
Don't do it!
no.
Because I was able to look it all up just now. And apparently in 2020 so far, I've spent $7,500. 2019 was $6,500.
I beat you.
2018 was $8,500.
I beat you.
2017 was $10,500.
I didn't beat you.
And 2016 was $11,500.
So you're starting to go down.
Apparently they're making less stuff now, I guess.
You know what? You know what's funny? Is I'm the expensive Masterpiece G1 guy. I spend less than you.
I'm sure you do.
So I can tell you guys a percentage.
Not by much, but
whoever said Pulse was in the lead, you're right. 15% of my collecting budget went to Pulse this year, followed by Amazon at 10%, Chosen Prime at just under 10%, BBTS, and then Target round out the top 5. But if we go to number 8, we reach our good friend Paul. You're number 8 this year.
Number 8.
3.35% of everything I've spent this year went to you.
Well, I'll tell you what. You got extremely efficient use of that money.
Yep.
I agree with that. Most of it was bots. Fun fact, you were also the very first money I spent in 2020.
Well, it's cash flow positive, baby.
I bought those mini Sharkticons from you from Cyberverse.
So I have to admit, Christian, I'm a little disappointed in you.
Yeah.
Because when we talked a month ago, I'm all about if you have a problem, you discuss it, and then you have the next step. And here we are a month later, and it doesn't feel like you've put any effort, or not effort, I shouldn't say.
No,
progress.
he did a budget.
Made progress.
He made a budget.
He made a budget at the beginning of the year, right? Or was that?
I started tracking at the beginning of the year. Now I have a budget and a separate account.
Okay.
And I've made preparations for this show because it needed to be entertainment as well.
Okay. All right. Oh, okay.
I've also
I'll
moved on a
retract.
Cybertron project to figure out that I probably don't need to get all of it. Yeah, we'll work on it.
You just need Primus. I mean, that's pretty much it, right? It's like, oh, I collected Cybertron, like in a kitschy way.
Yeah. I see what you did there. But you
So does Unicron count towards your past budget or your future budget?
Past.
Okay, good. Whew.
He's already paid.
That'd be a rough one.
That
He's
money
already
came
paid.
out.
Already paid.
So yeah, you need to. Talking about things is great, but you gotta put your stake in the ground and start moving forward with something. And you know what? And the great thing about the fuck it bucket is that if you change your mind, it's still there until you send it to Nick. You know, and that gives you a place to start your process. And if you get part of the way and find a problem, your friends are here to talk to you about it, and you can adjust.
So Lucas's thing about putting stuff in that bucket for a while and seeing if you miss it. My Nick pile of boxes has been there for 6 months now.
You don't care about that stuff.
Nope. Time to go. Nick, you wanna
Unrelated, Big Ten Robot just got in a bunch of exciting stock, and you should check it out.
Hey, there's some fans toys in that stock. You better check it out.
Oh,
I do love though that Christian and whatever is actually selling figures back to me that like I sold him a year
Done it
ago.
twice recently.
It's
It's
like,
all so incestuous.
oh my god, that's like I don't know what that says about me as a collector or any of us or whatever.
What's
that it's
even better
like-
than that is the yellow robots in disguise Optimus Prime. I think half the cast has owned that thing by now.
I had
You
it,
still
so
have
there
it?
we go.
You still got it, Paul? Or did you sell
Dude,
it?
the buck stops with me, so don't worry.
Nice. So Duran owned it first, and then I owned it, and then I sold it to Sergio, who then sold it to Paul.
The question just is, where the fuck is it?
In a bin,
Paul,
I'm sure.
You want to sell that back to me? I would like it back now.
It's my turn.
No.
It's my turn to hold the conch.
No. I need that.
You know, Lucas, something you said earlier about like you're thinking of canceling your Kingdom pre-orders, or you're kind of like wondering why. Like, it is also, I think, healthy to say, I want to get this toy and check it out and play with it for a bit, and then move on when, if it fits in your budget. It doesn't break other things. It is a bit on that I'm already pre-selling it in my mind, but if you do want to enjoy it for a little bit, and it fits within other things, I think that's okay too.
I'm
I've
really
bought some
excited
toys, a
for it.
few
I'm
things
just
like
sitting
that.
there wondering, like, as I'm saying, like that, oh, I really like X or whatever, like Masterpiece, I talked about it earlier, but it doesn't fit the scope of my collection. So it's like, well, Beast Wars is kind of like that too. And as we can see behind me, it's not like I have a bunch of empty shelves. So I guess I can just, I still got room
You can just shove it
throw
over.
more. Yeah, that's true. They're a little bit spread out now, so I guess I need to put them closer together.
And if anybody has a Grand Max that they want to sell on the cheap at the Fanbro price, hit me up.
Also, if
I
anyone
can
else
make
has-
room for it.
I've
has
got a Grand
suggestions on
Max.
how to- What? No.
G1.
Yeah, G1. Okay, I was gonna say
Everyone
it's from
else has
Takara.
gone-
It's still in the
Okay,
box.
stop. If anyone else has gone through this stuff or has advice on how to go through this stuff, definitely post comments below. We were live at this point in time, but if you see this later, post your comments too. We'll come back to it. I think it's a topic that everyone gets to. Like Paul coined and Rob mentioned, late stage transformerism is a thing that probably happens to everybody. It's just how do you move forward with it?
Oh, no. It does not. A lot of people fall off the plane, stop hanging onto the wings before they get to late stage transformerism. But
There's
I mean,
a lot of people that they burn out fast. They come
Yeah,
in, they buy all this crap for like a year or two, and they're like, "What have I done?" Those people are probably intelligent, and they sell it all and they get the hell out.
If you've been in
But
it
we're not
for like
talking about
15
them.
years or
Fuck
longer
them.
than that.
it's not. I mean,
quitters.
it's mostly a time. We should do a show on this where I can really define it, because I do have some high level thoughts, but it's mostly a time thing. But like you could probably enter late stage transformerism within 5 years. If you started collecting, but it's more like being like committing to the brand. Like you've been through the ups and downs, and they've gone everywhere, and you just don't get surprised very often anymore. And when you do, it's like a special feeling down in your tummy. But like you're just things that you're jaded. You're very jaded, and that's really what I kind of mean by that. It's like you feel like you've seen it all.
Me.
It did?
It did.
Man, I thought it was something you loved.
I do love BotBots.
Well, keep loving. I'm telling you. Hold on.
Unless you're done.
Hold on.
I have faith.
This is not the time to be done.
I think part of the thing, though, like you were saying with the BotBots, is that I have a hard time completing stuff. Like once I've completed something, like I want to get rid of it. I don't know what it is. It's like I want the journey. I don't want to, be at the top of the mountain.
And I've heard you say that before too. I was thinking of that when I was talking about it earlier. Sometimes you just like collecting. You said before that if you completed the line, whatever it was, you would just be done.
But it's I just hear that and I'm just like, wow, I'm so different. I guess I'm not like that's crazy, but like I've said.
I'm
before,
not that way either.
Yeah. Okay.
I got all my G1 shit. It doesn't mean I want to get rid of it now that it's done.
Yeah, like I have my Starscreams. I have them all. There's like one or two weird variants that I could pretend like I don't have, and I'm stoked. Like I don't want to. I'm happy. Like this is great. I'm at the top of the mountain. I'm having a party. I'm getting wasted up there.
I think there's certain figures that it's like, I mean, I wouldn't sell, like I wouldn't want to get rid of, but it's I think that, like Krishna was saying, that, you know, sometimes it's about a goal, and then you're like, all right, like I'm gonna get rid of, like, you know, the extras and just keep what I really love.
I think about Brycey sometimes, because I think he had like a life change that made him get rid of all this stuff, but he's like, I got it. I got all the Japanese G1 stuff. I've taken all the photos. You know, I've transformed them all, put them on my floor, taken a big ass photo of it. I did it. But now it's time to pass it on, and I'm just like I respect that, but I'm just like so horrified by it in a way. You know, I'm like, how could you do it? Oh my god! But he had it for a long time, and so
he enjoyed it.
He did. And I think that's kind of the message he was spreading about it. Is like, you know, it's time to give it to someone else that, you know, break it apart and let it disperse to the people that need these pieces and yada yada yada. And
someone else on their collecting journey.
Yeah, it's just it always kind of like there's a bit of melancholy about seeing someone get to the top of the mountain and then parachute off. I guess, you know. I hope they have a parachute.
We've touched on this topic before, and I'm pretty sure a few years ago we had this topic. But, you know, I definitely think about what about when I kick the bucket? This is a burden, you know, to anybody unless they just, you know, your crap just goes up for auction and whatever. And so, you know, my wife has your contact information, Nick, for Transformers, but I don't you know, it's because this is a burden. You know, and that's part of the reason why less is more, which goes more into, like, again, like what Paul was talking about earlier about, like, this is the ultimate piece from Cybertron, and it's so awesome. It's going to look a lot cooler than here's a bunch of Cybertron toys shoved on a shelf. You know, even if you made them display nicely, like a couple of big display pieces will look cooler. It's because less is absolutely more. And then when you do kick the bucket, you leave less of a burden on your family because it's a lot easier to get rid of 5 toys than 500. You know, even if the value is the same, you know, it's easier to trim down, and it's easier to start dusting them. It's easier to start taking care of them. It's easier for you to appreciate your own collection because you can see it. And I think a lot of that goes into it.
I think that's the thing that's hard is like the more figures that you get, the less that you appreciate each one.
Absolutely.
I don't know that that's true.
I disagree. I appreciate my first few Beast Wars figures as much as I appreciate the new guys, you know. But
how much do you appreciate that, like, $400 statue that you're not even going to open the box on?
Sure, you can find exceptions. You can find exceptions, I guess, if you want to.
In the chat, they're asking about
Max the Beast Optimus Prime 3.0. All of my hate.
In the chat, they're asking about if Brycey ever did that photo volume book that they're going to sell, and the answer is no. Yeah,
no. Shed all over it.
They weren't able to get a deal worked out with Hasbro to.
I don't understand that, because so many people in years past had done unauthorized Transformers books, and now all of a sudden it's a fucking problem.
Yeah, they didn't do a Facebook campaign.
It shouldn't matter because it's not. But that's another topic. That was just Hasbro being.
I mean, I think that I'm sure that he could have done it. I think it probably came down to he couldn't do it the way he wanted to do it, is probably what I'm assuming that happened. And I think that, like, as Paul said, that, like, he had that life event and whatnot that, you know, kind of was just like, you know what, I'm done and whatnot. I think the other thing that happened was the book got stolen from the booth at TFCon, and so I think that, I don't know. I think there was probably a lot of things, and I'm putting words in the mouth that, like, I'm sure that he could probably expand more on some of this stuff. But I wish it would come out. Like, I wish that at some point
it would have been beautiful.
in a few. I'm hoping that a few years from now, like when all the dust settles and whatnot, that he does end up releasing it, because I do think it's something that could be a really neat book.
Listen, if they hadn't done a Kickstarter campaign, if they hadn't made a Facebook ad campaign, if they would have just made the goddamn book, they would have been fine. That's the way the internet works now.
They probably just
got
didn't
wind
have the
of
money to make
Well,
it. My guess,
right.
But
Well, you get wind of, you put a Kickstarter campaign out there, and suddenly someone sees how much money is being made off their brand, and they're gonna bite you. They're gonna bite your cookie.
I think the thing that's hard on that is
Did
But
what?
he didn't Kickstarter them.
I think, and I don't know, on Rick's book, does it have?
We're really off topic, and this is a long show. Sorry
Yeah,
to
that's,
re-up
yeah. But,
Save this for the
Totally
after.
bounce.
yeah, I was gonna say there's probably a thing or whatever. We could probably, whatever, save that for another show. But nevertheless, I don't know. Do we have any other thoughts? I know we've gone a while.
I want
here.
Christian to close out the episode with where he is, what his plan is. I'm not saying you don't have to have it solved, but what are your next steps? Where do you go? Because this is literally, we put a title on here, but this is the Christian therapy 2 hours.
I know,
Which I'm down for.
free, it's
Don't get me
great.
wrong.
My first goals is to sleep on the bigger display pieces or scenes idea versus checklist idea. That's something I hadn't considered before, and add into that a collection of unique displays. That's I didn't realize that's necessarily something I did, but actually it's something I have done with a lot of things throughout my entire living area. So interesting. Beyond that, I'm going to take to heart that, take out my favorites and what's left on the floor can go. Will it actually be able to go? I don't know, but I'm going to try it. Like Rob mentioned, I need to have like a set number of totes that comprise my collection. Right now it's like 27 totes plus my display space, which is a lot. Maybe it can be 20 totes, or maybe it can be 25 totes to start. And in 6 months, maybe it'll be 20 totes, and then I can keep winnowing down. Beyond that, of course, when January begins, budgeting time begins. I'm fueling that account now so that it can be ready for January to hit. It'll be just a little bit over full, so I can get adjusted during that first month or two adjustment period. And I'll do my best to stick to it.
So now you've told us that. So if you don't stick to it, you're a goddamn filthy liar.
You're right.
And I don't associate with liars. So
You've associated with me for 14 years now.
I don't think I have. I think we met in like 2010-ish.
Yeah, but we met online before that.
Did we?
Yeah.
Maybe. But
Aboard, baby.
But now, if you reveal yourself to be a traitorous liar, I will have no choice but to burn your collection.
We can
I'm not
do
gonna
a
hold you to
bonus
that.
episode of
I'm gonna go more along the lines of, as long as you're making progress in the direction you want to go in, that's all that matters, buddy.
It's absolutely correct. Yeah.
Oh, I'm with Rob 100%.
Hey, Paul. We can get some pitchforks from Grant. Some lighted torches.
No, he has tiki torches now.
Tiki torches. Sorry. Yes.
I'd be happy to see you guys. Please don't burn down anything inside my apartment.
We'll just hold radios above our heads outside of your apartment.
That would be adorable.
Blaster.
Please do
It'll be
that.
blaster.
We'll hold sound waves and blasters.
One of you a sound wave. It'd be great.
Your eyes.
One of you can play the touch. One of you can play dare. They can clash with each other, but also mix together to understand Bush. It'd be great.
Play you my Christmas song.
Oh, wow. Anna says that in 3 months we need to have a live budget progress meeting.
I love the idea of starting a quarterly series following Christian through his journey.
We can do that.
Because, I know I've talked about my collecting journey several times on the show. It comes up. It has for a lot of us.
December 14th, March 14th. It's the day after my sister's birthday. Let's do this.
It could be fun.
Or whatever
Isn't it?
Monday
It's like-
that week is.
Can we all wear green?
I guess.
Is that Patty's Day or something?
Be right
3
around
days
there.
after will be.
But it's Pie Day.
So I guess should we all
It's
keep
Friday.
track of our budgets and see what where we're
Whoever
at?
wants to follow along with me, you can. Keep track of your budget or keep track of what you're spending. Wherever you are, if you want to do it, join us for that. I will be keeping track of mine, and I can update you then.
I like it's like the New Year's resolution where like a lot of people are joining a gym or whatever it may be, and we're like, all right, we're gonna get a budget going for Transformers.
Hey, I did my measuring thing this year. I kept with it the whole time.
That's
Sure.
awesome. That's a big step for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
that was the first step I
without
needed.
that, you
And
wouldn't
now
have
it's-
came to the realization, right?
Of oh God, what am
Exactly.
I doing?
This was the first step, to say, I need to know how bad it is, or at least I need not even how bad it is. Like I said, I'm not ashamed. Just I need to know what it is because I didn't know, and now I know, and now I know what I need to do to change it.
Now you know.
Knowing is half the battle.
Can I announce that, unrelated to everything, I just secured a voice actor panel for PFCon.
What?
Oh, there you go.
Frank!
I was about to say it's got to be Frank, right?
Frank Welker.
Excellent. I love it.
It's going to be the second
Yes,
most drunkest
Frank
voice
Welker.
actor planet.
It's Frank Welker.
I can't wait for us to do a Q&A because I am going to ask him the drive-through question.
Oh no! I'm going to ask how you get
I'm
into
now
voice acting.
so sad that I can't make PFCon.
Oh, this is going to be good.
As
Christian, I
mentioned-
like the idea of let's do the follow-up. That sounds great.
Okay, let's do it. Put it on
Don't
the
you think,
calendar,
Lucas?
You're the master of the show.
Sure.
We're always needing topics.
Look, I'm happy to be there to cheer you on, but as we all know, I don't have a fucking budget, so I don't know how much comparison.
Well, you at least keep track of your stuff, so you're
I
spending.
do.
Yeah, but Nick, you support me.
So I was going to mention tomorrow night, Microcasters. Do we know what we're doing, Christian? Or are we still trying to figure that out?
Thought we were doing medics. Anime put in the chat that we're not doing medics, but I thought we were doing medics.
I thought that's too, but I guess whatever Anna wants to do
It's a
tomorrow,
surprise.
It's a
we can surprise it.
Mike.
Yeah.
Even to the cast.
We don't know.
Yeah.
We kind of know.
Oof My Wallet was really fun last week, and so I think that we're going to skip a week this week. Is that right, Paul? But there will be a Cut the Tape this week, and it's somewhat long. So it's a sail barge. So I get to edit that together. So that was a lot
Somewhat
of fun.
long? Because
Right, exactly. So yeah, so that'll
present it
be
in
coming out.
widescreen format now.
Yes.
Are you
Yes.
charging Rick hours on this?
I should be.
Should you be?
God. Right. So, book club this week is Megatron Origin. So that is Sunday night at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central on the
What a
Discord channel.
throwback. Who made that call?
Yeah, wow.
That's a fun call to make. Dang, that's like 2006 IDW.
Oh, and Anna got some knockoff trash, so
Hey, I
Apparently
also
she
got
wants to
knockoff
cover
trash.
that.
We went on knockoff trash together.
I don't feel like this is helps out with the budget or the space.
Yeah.
You're correct.
You're plastic shaming, Lucas. Come on.
I've had a lot of
Plastic shaming,
changes
bro.
apart between the time we ordered the knockoff garbage and the time the knockoff garbage arrived.
That time it's called regret.
Oh, okay.
No records.
I guess Zaldron that we're doing it for his birthday. That's the reason why we're doing the Megatron one. So
Good choice. Happy birthday, Zaldrin.
there you go.
Also, happy birthday, Christian. Your birthday's tomorrow.
Yeah, there you go.
Did you just happy birthday yourself in the third
I
person?
did happy birthday myself. No one else was going to do it.
It's not your birthday.
I was
You'll
waiting
wait.
until tomorrow night. We have a show. Well, I guess we are having a show, right? On your birthday?
Yeah, we have a show. We have a show on my birthday.
Hey, in
So-
40 minutes, I just get to wish you a happy birthday for realsies, so I'll just wait 40
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
You guys can all bomb the end of microcasters tomorrow and wish me happy birthday.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you to everyone in the chat. Zaldron and Anna, Catherine, Big Daddy Reviews, Enots, Soulcraft. Who else did I miss?
Active chat.
Jay. I know I missed some other. Eric earlier in the show. Ron. So thank you guys. Thank you for everyone for joining in the chat, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Hi, everybody.